What's this? Yet more views of the Semmering Railway? Beautiful! But where is the presenter? Oh dear, he must have forgotten to film an intro. What a schoolboy error! Never mind. Here's episode 4 of Midlander in the Mountains. Run VT! Thank you for rejoining me. I'm now going to pay a quick visit inside the station to meet a fellow Brit. There's a small museum here at Semmering Railway Station, and we've covered quite a lot about museums, and as interesting as they are, I'm just going to show you some photos of this one, but I've come here to talk about this guy. At the end of World War II, just like Germany, Austria was divided into occupation zones, and the border between the Russian and the British zone was here at Semmering. What I didn't realise was that the lady behind the counter, Dagmar was something of a walking encyclopedia. I'd never done an interview before, so I just put the camera on the tripod and asked her to talk. She's absolutely pure gold. She's got a lot to say. Listen to this.
I told you, I don't know why, but my mother was educated and spoke a very good English. At 1944 or so, and in Brook under Moor, there were the British occupation, and my mother worked there at the Russian store, and because until to Semmering there were soldiers with their families, and she had to divide a single soldier. He got so much tea, so much cigarettes, so much that, you know. And then this was sent from Brook to Semmering or wherever the English soldiers were stationed, you know. And we children, my sister was 5, I was 4 years old, because we had nobody to look after us, so in the morning we went to the German kindergarten, and in the afternoon we went to the English kindergarten. So somebody was occupied about us as long my mother was working. You know?
So the English soldiers were allowed to bring their families here?
Yes, some of which were longer, had to stay longer here, you know.
Yeah.
That's because finally they went. At first it was in Brook, then they went to Graz in the former from the military. We say caserne.
Barracks.
Barracks, yeah.
Yeah.
They were located there in Graz, and gradually, as we got the contract for the Staatsvertrag, you know, the Staatsvertrag we got at 1955-6.
The Befreiung, this is when Austria is allowed to not be occupied anymore.
Gradually and closer to this moment, the Russian, the French, the American, they left Austria, you know. So my mother went with them from Brook to Graz, from Graz to Leibniz, and then they left Styria.
So it was a gradual withdrawal going backwards.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And when the soldiers were located in Brook under Moor, we had certainly. We had to give our flat to some higher officers, yeah. And in our flat, it was not very big, but still we had to leave a room for one of the captains. And this captain, I remember, he was very, very small and rather fat. And his servant, in German we call it Pfeifendeckel, you know. He was about 1.90 m. His name was Dad, and he was thin and long. But at this time, they brought us. The first time I ate ananas, This was the first time I saw pineapple in tins, you know, and the very good tin milk, you know, condensed milk we call it.
Yeah.
And that was also the first time I ate oranges, you know. Before we had apples and pears and what was growing in our thing, but with the soldiers, that was their food ration. We got it also, my mother got it, you know. Maybe it was a part of the wage, I don't know. But it was the first time we got confronted with this kind of very nice food. And Cadbury chocolate, this was also something. I loved it with nuts and raisins.
They still make it, I can assure you.
And that is in my memory, you know. But also, we are war products, you know. I had a wonderful childhood because everybody or nobody had anything, you know. We as children didn't find it terrible. Certainly we were not allowed to take some food, you know. We had to ask, may I have a piece of bread or may I have that, because my mother had to divide it, you know, so we had for a longer time food. But it was like this. We still had a wonderful childhood, you know, a very free one.
Great, isn't she? This, folks, is living history, and there is no substitute. I really appreciated that Dagmar gave me her time. The museum, incidentally, gives a good overview of the area, and all the volunteer staff are extremely helpful. Any more stories, Dagmar? Oh, you bet she has. And so just after the war, you benefited from the British occupation here. You got food from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw things you'd never seen before. The pineapples.
Yeah.
Cadbury's chocolate.
Yeah.
I'll have to try and get you some of that. You can get it here in Austria now.
And I mean, like everywhere in the world, you had good people, bad people. But the British military police was very, very strict, because certainly some soldiers
didn't behave very well? Is that what you're...
Yeah. And they even, I remember when I was a little bit older, you know, I remembered that very often military police took an English soldier and he got into prison because he didn't behave against women, you know. So they were very strict. It was not so. We were a short time occupied by the Russian. There are also very good people and very bad people, because they were especially friendly to children, the Russian. And we had, where we lived, there was a big place, and there were stone rocks, and the higher leveled Russian, the officers, could leave the occupied flat, you know, if you want or not, but it was the same with the English. But the soldiers, they put some straw on these rocks. The Russian soldiers have to live not in a tent. They slept there and surrounded by their horses. So they were a little bit warmer, and they were covered when it was cold. They had no good outfit, and they had also very little to eat. But when we children came to them, they said, "Come," and they had ugly bread, kleb, as they said. It was sometimes already
mouldy?
Moulding.
Yeah.
But they gave half the piece to us children and the half they ate.
So whilst you take in a bit more of the museum, cast your minds back to the derelict hotel I chanced upon in the last episode. It turns out it's called the Kurhaus Semmering, or Kur Hotel for short. So could my newfound little superstar tell me anything about that? I wasn't disappointed.
No, however, the Kur Hotel used to be in the 19th century a big, elegant hotel, but at this part of the Semmering we have a special climate, you know. It is a very smooth, mild climate, and they call it Meraner climate. Meran is a city in Tyrol, you know, where our empress went to recover, you know. And we have this climate here, and this big hotel was at first a very good grand hotel, and during the war it became a lazaret, a hospital for soldiers, you know. And afterwards it was a kind of sanatorium because of the good climate. It was very good for the pneumonia, you know. They could recover, and they had cures outside. It was built with the beds in the open air, just with a cart shelter, you know. And then the next station of this hotel was, it belonged to, in German it's a Krankenkasse. It's a society where you pay in, and when you get ill, they will...
Health insurance.
Yeah, health insurance, exactly. And it belonged to a Vienna health insurance for many years. And then it came a time nobody really could afford to have hotels for their employees where they spend their holidays or make seminars, and the factories or the companies finished with them. And then the Kur Hotel was closed.
Cheers, Dagmar. Thank you for your time. Well, the Kur Hotel's current owners are hoping to restore it in the near future to its former glory, and I wish them all the best. But it was now time for me to continue on my journey, yomping up the hill to the main strip, and rather wishing that I had lighter camera equipment. I got to the top just at the end of a church service, and then I began to notice something. There does seem to be a plethora of green roofs around here. Then I saw something else, which took me straight back to the green lanes of England. Didn't expect to see that up here. Semmering's heritage is firmly rooted in the 19th century. The railway brought prosperity, it brought wealth, it also brought royalty. Then a little bit later, it started to attract actors, poets, musicians. It's an area of culture. I then caught another glimpse of the Kurhaus Hotel from an elevated position. But there was something a little bit closer which caught my eye. More green roofs. I was planning to do a piece to camera at the Südbahn Hotel, but they have a summer culture festival on and there are performances running right at the moment. I don't think they're really going to appreciate my booming black country voice, so I'll just have to voice over this bit. The Südbahn, or Southern Railway Hotel, was originally built in 1882 by the Southern Railway themselves and their engineers. This explains its rather pedestrian appearance in its original form, with exposed brick. It was expanded in 1901 by state architects to the grand building we see here. During its early days, the hotel attracted royalty and aristocracy, but it couldn't survive on just that trade alone, so it promoted itself to international clients, the rich, the famous, and the new wealth. But after the annexation of Austria in 1938, the many Jewish visitors and local property owners fled. The war, of course, hit the Semmering very hard, quite literally in 1945, and post-war big hotels and railways fell out of fashion. Eventually the Südbahn Hotel closed. But that's a long way from the end of the story, because since 2015 the hotel has been hosting cultural events during the summer. The Südbahn Hotel is getting back on its feet. Although it's not open for guests just now, plans to get it fully operational are very advanced. This is definitely a location to watch, and a very historical one in the context of the region. I have a feeling one day I'll be back. As you follow the Semmering Railroad Hiking Trail towards the Trieste Strasse and the main central part of Semmering, there's plenty of restaurant choice. The waiter at this particular establishment showing me his appreciation for being able to appear on Midlander in the mountains. I thank you. There is, of course, plenty of choice for accommodation, and I have it on good authority that this place does a great breakfast. Link in the description below. My attention was then drawn in to what is for many people the reason to fix a large plastic box on the roof of their car and leave work an hour early on winter evenings. Drawn like a moth to a flame, I found myself on the piste, so to speak, in a place known locally as Magic Mountain. So we've talked an awful lot about museums and trains, and that's what these films are really all about. But what else can you do? Well, what happens if you just come here for a day out? We're here at the Zauberberg, the ski lift. It's the end of August. We don't need skis. We're going to take some wheels. But the management here at Midlander in the Mountains have asked me to take precautions. But if you think I'm going to wear this, which makes me look like an alien, you've got another thing coming. So I've done it my own way. Midlander in the Mountains, ready for action. And now, suitably prepared and attired, it is time to ride the mountain with my scooter. Breathe and balance, sunshine, no going back now. Anyone would have thought I looked like an eccentric English idiot. As my speed increased, I was getting encouragement by the locals. Woohoo! I hope I've sufficient health insurance. It was so much fun I started doing open-mouthed impressions of the phantom flycatcher. Tally-ho! If I look nervous, that's understandable. My goggles were becoming more steamed up than a Bangkok sauna. Nearly got some air there. But all too soon it was over. Okay. I think my silly laughter says everything. The local teenage mountain bikers thought I was bonkers. I think next time I'll take my own knee pads, but there's definitely going to be a next time. It's too much fun. As I left Zauberberg to rejoin the trail, I stopped for a moment to appreciate a real daredevil, Edward Nittner, the first man to fly over the Semmering. No mean feat in 1912. You pass a lake and keep following the yellow signs. Now you're in the next county of Styria or Steiermark. As I look back on Zauberberg, I got the impression that the scenery and general feel of the walk was going to change, and I wasn't wrong. If you're doing all this by train, this gives me the opportunity to show how after over a minute of darkness you emerge from the Semmering rail tunnel to subtly different views. I had to cross the Triestestrasse main road, and hearing fast-moving vehicles for the first time in a while kind of snapped me out of the Semmering spell a bit. But I was soon back by the line, reminding me of the true focus of my walk. As you make your way down from Semmering here into the Styrian side, there's a very different feel. Rolling meadows, more forest, and you haven't got the extreme with the mountains and the rocks. Things just sort of roll a bit more. They call this the Green Heart of Austria. And I can see why, really. The rail line continues its way gently running parallel to the main road. This being the view towards the next stop on the line. Steinhaus am Semmering, or Stonehouse on the Semmering, aptly named when you see the station. And for you ghost hunters, that's not actually a spooky figure at the first floor window, it's the reflection of a tree. The next stop on the line is Spittel am Semmering, where the hiking trail takes you through this pleasant cloister. And as usual, there is plenty of opportunity for refreshment. The station being complemented by an almost panoramic view. Sit back and enjoy. Ah, a viewing tower. A glimpse towards a future project for this railway line. And whilst on foot and taking some footage of these pretty houses, I was briefly joined by Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. To our final stop and the end of the line. Well, for us at least. It's possible to carry on to Trieste, of course. All out at Mürzzuschlag. I do hope I've pronounced that right. So here we are at the Südbahn or Southern Railway Museum. The impressive entrance resembles a grand imperial station, and the on-site cafe is a reconstruction of the sort of railway carriage the aristocracy and gentry might have travelled in around the turn of the 19th century. We are greeted as we enter the museum proper with a symbol marking the transition from horse to steam. We are then greeted by Archduke Johann Erzherzog, an early instrumental campaigner for the Semmering link, and Franz Riepel, who proposed it. Georg von Sina, who helped finance it, and of course our now old friend Karl Ritter von Geiger, the engineer responsible for the Alpine Link. Inside the first hall they tell the construction story of the railway and show archaeological finds from the time. Walk into the tunnel display and you can see artwork depicting what people originally thought of the railway in the 1840s. It shows that some locals considered the steam locomotive ungodly and even the work of the devil himself. And it smells of engine oil for authenticity. Beautiful. The first hall is full of exhibits and pictures, and although most of the information is in German, there is some information in English. But like anything else these days, use your mobile phone online translator and you've got it all. At the end of the hall stands the first locomotive display. It started life having been built in Poland in 1943 in the Deutsche Reichsbahn. It then went to the Soviet Union where it served on the Hungarian railways and finally ended up in Tito's Yugoslavia before being mothballed. But wouldn't it be interesting if that could talk? A short walk outside finds you in the next hall, which is split into two parts and was previously a workshop. The collection of railroad trolleys is first class and includes a design by Ferdinand Porsche, but don't get tempted to climb on them, folks, they are alarmed. Now, the observant military history buffs amongst you may have noticed more than a smattering of what is generally called field grey in here. Time for a treat. And there's not just trains here at the museum. This Second World War Kubelwagen is designed to run on rails, and there can't be too many of those left. And talking of rarities, there aren't too many Mark I Ford Transits still left around in this condition. And yes, you've guessed it, it runs on rails, but this one could also run on the road as well. Just lift everything up with hydraulics. Clever. And a fawn lorry designed as a shunter. But wait a minute, here comes the piste de resistance. This one is equipped with a crane and was designed to transport tanks to the front in 3 pieces and assemble them on site. After the war, it was used by the Austrian Railway. The second of the 2-part halls contains a smelting oven and a locomotive from 1854, the Gemunden, which was the year the Semmering Railway was completed. Cool, huh? The mighty 1006 horsepower 180 series was rather a breakthrough design, with 5 axles. 3 of these 5 axles have got lateral movement, making it easier to go around corners, a design that proved so successful it was adopted throughout the world. Makes me think I should have paid more attention at school, really. This is an early example of an electric loco, which is Swiss. Because of the lights at the front, the shape of it gets wider in the middle, and then it looks identical at the other end. It earned itself a nickname, the Crocodile. And this old lady's done over 2.7 million miles. That's about 110 times round the Earth. Outside you see exactly why this is called the roundhouse, but don't come out here until you're ready to leave. The door locks behind you. Remember the town I showed you earlier? Here's our link to the future. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed our quick flick around the Südbahn Museum. And I'm sorry about the weather, it's closed in a little bit. But up here on the observation tower, you get a glimpse of the western portal of the new Semmering Tunnel. And that leads me to our last destination. And so finally, that brings me here, to the info box, where we get a little look into the future. The info box, situated by Glognitz Castle, is where the Austrian railways tell the story of what's happening during the construction of the new tunnel that will connect the Alpine route through the Semmering. The new tunnel will reduce train times through the Semmering Pass by 30 minutes, allowing trains to travel up to 145 miles an hour through the new tunnel. But its big advantage is it allows more freight to pass with larger trains. And the old line can and will still be used for some passenger trains. Von Gager's construction is far from being retired. It is, after all, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, remember. The exhibits explain, in German and English, what's going on. This particular display shows the 8 different rock types that they've had to bore and blast through. On one end of the tunnel construction, they're blasting and digging, and on the other end, it's been done by a giant drill. And the roller bits used start life looking like this and end up looking like that. And here's your timeline. Here comes the borer, here comes the digger and the blasters. 2023. Gotcha. And 2026. Bingo. Have a nice journey. That slipped slightly to 2028, but I think we can allow them that. They are taking safety in the tunnel, of course, very seriously. And here, the emergency stop, the size of a soccer field, is explained. It's right in the middle of the tunnel and provides an escape route for everybody. An absolute necessity with such a massive undertaking. I get the feeling I'm around when railway history is being made again. And that's because I am. With the sun getting low in the sky, it's time to say goodbye to the Semmering Railway Hiking Trail. And I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody here in Austria who has helped me make these films. But I'd also like to say a big thank you to those people that subscribed and all those who offered me encouragement to keep making more of them. You've only got yourselves to blame. Anyway, I'll see you again soon on Midlander in the mountains. Until then, ta-da!